guys, I have been beat up and chewed up and spit out today. It has been a rough day. All the smoke we've been having obviously has been no fun to deal with, but we don't have an air conditioner, and so we run the whole house fan at night because that's the only way to cool the house. And so, I'm breathing next to a window all night long with all the smoky stuff, and woke up a couple of mornings ago with just so much drainage. So that was a bummer. And then, ended up with a sore throat after that, and then sinus pressure from just congestion. Wow, it's been annoying. So last night I did not sleep hardly at all, and then woke up this morning to, of course, virtual school for all the kids. And so we got a fifth grader and a fifth grader and a third grader and a first grader, and that has been rough trying to get all their different schedules lined up. And you would think that all of the schools would have the same lunchtime because they're thinking about families that have more than one kid, but no, there's different lunch times for all the schools. So, this has been a pain to deal with. And then on top of all that, there's some sort of troubleshooting digital stuff that has to be done every 20 minutes. Somebody's headphones don't work or whatever. So this has been a day. But and then in the midst of that, there's an 18-month-old who's going up and grabbing everybody's papers and work off of all of the tables and yelling and stuff. And so I'm about ready to call it quits for today. Multiple meltdowns at my house, all of them me. So yeah, it's been rough. And so parents with multiple elementary school kids, I am with you. Okay. I feel for you. I empathize better than I've ever been able to empathize before. I feel like, when Paul says, persecuted but not abandoned. We're hard pressed on every side but not crushed. We're persecuted but not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. Man, I know that because of Christ, I'm not destroyed, I'm not abandoned, I'm not crushed. But wow, I'm definitely feeling the hard pressed, the perplexed, and just all of that has been, man, beaten up on all sides today. And so I was just kind of thinking about all of the stress of everything, and this passage came to my mind this afternoon. So I just wanted to share it with you. Hopefully it encourages you. These thoughts from Jesus in John chapter 16. So this is right before the famous prayer that Jesus prays in John chapter 17, where he's concerned about the unity of all the believers, right? But John 16, right before that, if you look in verse 25, Jesus says, "Though I have been speaking figuratively, a time is coming when I will no longer use this kind of language, but will tell you plainly about my Father. In that day you will ask in my name. I am not saying that I will ask the Father on your behalf. No, the Father himself loves you because you have loved me and have believed that I came from God. I came from the Father and entered the world. Now I am leaving the world and going back to the Father." Then Jesus' disciples said, "Now you are speaking clearly and without figures of speech. Now we can see that you know all things and that you do not even need to have anyone ask you questions. This makes us believe that you came from God." "Do you now believe?" Jesus replied. "A time is coming, and in fact has come, when you will be scattered, each to your own home. You will leave me all alone, yet I am not alone, for my Father is with me. I have told you these things, so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." If you wanted to talk to the President of the United States, you probably wouldn't get to. You wouldn't be able to do that, regardless of who the president is, right? It's just, we're little tiny ants, and he's way up there in the Oval Office or doing off whatever he wants to do. Probably couldn't talk to the president of the United States personally if you wanted to, unless you happen to get lucky when he's trying to impress some people. Uh, Even if you wanted to talk to, say, a very important CEO or something like that, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos from Amazon, Bill Gates, you probably could not even get a personal meeting with them. Um, if you maybe had a um, a friend who personally knew some big shot leader of some company, you might be able to get a meeting in if they happen to have enough free time. Even if you're on the phone talking with getting the rigmarole from all of the people at the phone company or something like that, it's like, well, can I talk with your manager or with your boss? You might get one level. If you're really lucky, you might get the boss's boss, but that would have to be a pretty big deal. You're not going up to the top of the food chain through the phone. That's just not gonna happen. Um, that movie or the show Undercover Boss. I think it was on CBS several years ago. I'm not sure if they still do it, where the boss would put on some makeup or some kind of wig and stuff like that, and go into the company at maybe some of these lower level positions, and they would find out what injustices were going on, or in what ways people were maybe being taken advantage of that they shouldn't have been. In what ways can the company do more for you? And that's a great thing when that happens. But sometimes it's like, with life, can I just talk to the boss? I just want to be able to express my concern or my complaint or whatever it is. Here's something that to be on the lookout for. Man, sometimes you just want to talk to the boss of life, and the awesome thing about it is that we can, right? God is not too busy to take your call. He's not off on some golf course somewhere, some galactic golf course, hitting planets into black holes or something, which would be super fun. I wonder if we get to do that. But he's not hiding in some office waiting for you to get through all the right people, ask the right saints to put in a good word so that maybe they'll give a good word. Man, if any of those people that we revere from early in church history knew that their names are being invoked to go through them to God, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? You can go straight to the man yourself, right?" Man, you can get a personal meeting with the creator of the universe, with the biggest boss that there is. Imagine wanting to talk to like Warren Buffett or something like that, because you have something, I don't know, you really need to tell him. And the only thing you know how to do is to drive to 3555 Farnham Avenue Street in Omaha, Nebraska. I think that's like the only address that I don't know if he's ever there. I just Googled Berkshire Hathaway and that's what I found. And so you go there expecting, you're going to have to talk to the person at the front desk who's going to put a call up to this office, who might let you get up there, who will leave a message with this person. And if they consider your cause or your question or whatever worthy enough, they might put you up to the office or the floor where he works at, where there's a head person who, if he or she ends up not busy enough, they might call the personal assistant. And even then, you're not getting to Warren Buffett that day. You're probably getting one or two levels, and that is it, right? But imagine you're determined, and you park in some parking spot, and you walk half a mile to the front door, and opening the door for you is Warren Buffett. There to answer all of your questions and inquiries and address all your concerns and everything like that. That's how it is with God. He's not off somewhere waiting for us to say the right magical words or anything like that. He's waiting to talk with us, and he can't wait to talk with you. He's got all the time in eternity, right? But that's what we can expect from God. He's in charge of everything, and he's the doorman at the same time, right? But we need a direct relationship with God, especially when life is difficult, when life is hard, because life is hard, especially right now. And that's why Jesus' words at the end of John chapter 16 mean so much to me when he says, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." It's not like oh, well, I mean, Jesus has already gotten it taken care of, so, who cares about anything else because Jesus has got it. That's not what he's saying, but rather it's, the way I look at it, an invitation to live into a completely different and new reality that Jesus provides. I don't know if you've seen the movie A Quiet Place, but it's John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. And in this movie, I haven't seen it because I don't do scary movies. But there's these monsters or something, aliens, I don't know, that somehow invade. They take over a continent or the whole planet. And they're blind, I think, but they can hear you. So as long as you are completely dead silent, you can get by and survive. The only way to survive and get by in this new way of life, in this new reality that they find themselves in, is to change everything about how they did things before. Some things you have to completely let go of. They couldn't make any noise, and so they had to think about everything differently. There was no part of their old way of life that they could bring in and expect to get by in this new reality. The two just would not fit. You will see every part of life differently if you look at them through the lens of this new reality. And I think that's a decent analogy for what it is to live in the kingdom. Everything about your old way of life is different. If it's something that is compatible, the way that you do it probably is still going to change. And some things aren't compatible and need to be left behind completely. So you see my fish tank behind me that I've been working for a while on. So I don't know if you know this, but fish go in quarantine also, and invertebrates and snails and sea urchins and anemones and all that kind of stuff. Everything gets quarantined because you don't want to put something from a parasite at the fish store into your nice tank where it's going to infect everything else. And so you've got to set up a separate tank that the fish can survive inside of for 45 to 76 days or something like that. Treat it with the right chemicals and see if anything bad happens. But so I had 3 tanks on this side of the room and then that tank on that side of the room. And I was just kind of thinking about what it would be like to be one of these fish inside of these quarantine tanks, which is nothing more than salt water and a couple of white PVC pipes and some kind of filter that's filtering the water in and out. And I feel like sometimes, so everything about these tanks are different. The lights are different. The flow is different. Those quarantine tanks were very still, whereas that has about 500 gallons of water per hour that's moving around inside of it. Just completely different ways of living. And I feel like sometimes we're these fish in these quarantine tanks where we're arguing about what the food tastes like and how best to eat it. And the fish don't even realize in these quarantine tanks I'm giving them different types of food. They don't even know where the food is coming from. They don't know that everything about their environment has been tailor-made specifically for them and spoon-fed to them for this period of time. They do not understand this other tank and how life is going to be over there, but that's the life that I intend for them eventually. And we interpret everything through our little tanks that oftentimes have been spoon-fed to us by society. It's been handcrafted for us, but it's not the reality that we're intended to live in and to live under. Those fish in the quarantine tanks that were on this side of the room, they would not make it in that tank if they tried to live the way that they did in the other tanks, because it's just a completely different reality. The only thing that is the same is like how much salt is in the water. That's it. But everything about it is so much different. When Jesus says that he offers eternal life, that Greek word aionios, eternal, is something more than just a temporal thing that means it doesn't end. It's so much more than that. It doesn't just mean a kind of life where you don't die. It's a quality of life. It's a different kind of living. The deeper meaning is more of a quality. It's so much more full. It's a quality of life that nothing in this world and nothing that happens in this world can touch. And if you don't have that life, then you're vulnerable to all of those things. We all experience bad times and hard times, trying times. We experience those times of being hard pressed, just like Paul says. But Paul and Jesus would both have you interpret those experiences and those situations and those circumstances, whether they're good or bad, with an attitude that believes and acts upon the reality that Jesus has won, and that Jesus is Lord, and that Jesus bought and redeems my time, my speech, my thoughts, my relationships, my money, my Facebook profile, my grade, my marriage, and what I do with all of those things. People who truly believe that Jesus has won and that Jesus is Lord cannot act as if he's not. Your job, your retirement plan, your news feed, your news channel, your Facebook feed, your entertainment preferences, your school, your grade, your political party or affiliation, your country, all of those are little lords who would have you believe that you can worship both God and mammon. All of those things have the ability and do cause stress in all of our lives, for everyone, and sometimes even real anxiety for some people. That's truth, whether you're a Christian or not. But it's also true that Jesus has already beaten the powers that would have you worship those things. So take heart, because Jesus has overcome the world. He's won the war. All of those powers are beaten, because you have a direct line to God. Take heart. There are heavenly armies that are surrounding all of us, flooding the hills and overwhelming the enemy. And sometimes they're hard to see, but we need to pray for open eyes to see them and to live knowing that the real enemy is defeated.